Lovely. Well, one of the highlights of this 50th anniversary year of The Prisoner has been the new documentary In My Mind. Let's have a reminder of this film. Please welcome the director, Mr. Chris Rodley. So, in 1983, you made a documentary.
Yeah.
What made you, however many years later, come back and make another one?
I didn't want to. I didn't want to. It was a painful experience. If it's your first film, you don't know anything, and you don't know what you're doing, and it's all lost opportunities. And I hadn't looked at it for years because I knew the end result wasn't very good. And Patrick was, really hated it beyond belief. So I didn't want to do it. A network contacted me and said, "Do you think you could? We've acquired all the rushes. We've got all the rushes, and do you think you could make something?" Revisit it and re-edit it. And I lied, and I said, yes, of course, I can do that. I can do that. And they sent me the rushes, which was as bad as I remembered, really difficult. And then they said, do you think you can do it? And I said, yeah, I can do it, it's fine. I didn't think I could do it. I wasn't even sure I wanted to do it. And actually, it was quite late in the day that I knew it was going to be all right, but it was late. I mean, I think it wasn't until we got to the editing stage that suddenly, which is sometimes the case, actually. You don't know what you're doing. And then I think it was in the first week of editing. I can remember it, actually. Something went in my head, and I thought, that's it. That's how we're going to do this. Because I really didn't know if it was worthwhile doing or, I wanted to do it for Patrick. Actually, it was like, you would never really get this chance. I mean, I don't know what you were doing 35 years ago, but, if you were in a relationship, imagine how you might have screwed that up. And someone said, you want to revisit that relationship and maybe make it better this time, do it better, and you don't get those chances very often. So I thought, well, for him, I'll do it for him, actually.
And for those that haven't seen the film, back in 1983, you actually conducted 2 separate interviews with him. The first one, I think, was particularly difficult, and I think we've got a clip to show everyone here of what you were up against, really.
Yeah. Oh.
It didn't get much better than that for you, did it, Chris?
No, that was it. That's how it was. All the time, and as the film explains, we sort of got through it. We got through the day. It was a whole day. It was really awful, and then we sort of said, I was so glad when it was over, and we went into the desert to recover. And I don't know how he found us, and he sort of turned up and said, hi. He called. I don't know how he did that. I wish I'd asked him, actually, but suddenly the phone rang in the hotel, and he just said, I'm around the corner. And we went, and he got out his checkbook and said, I'll buy it all back. I'll buy the whole thing back. It's a mistake. We should never have done it. We couldn't, I was just some kind of novice. First film for Channel 4, and I said, we can't do it, so we can't give you the footage back. We can't sell it to you. It's not going to work. So we did it all over again. And that was better. Although, weirdly, when I came to edit it, I think that first horrendous interview has got a lot more clues in it. And it's a lot more interesting because it's really painful. Whereas the second time round, we'd done a lot of talk. There were 3, actually.
The second time, sorry to interrupt, the second time is much more polished from McGowan, isn't the first time? You can see the real him more, and how he struggles himself with nerves.
He'd relaxed. He'd sort of relaxed. And we'd worked up a relationship, which is basically him shouting at me, and then, but me doing what he said. I mean, that sounds horrible, but, if it's your first film, what's it like with a first girlfriend or boyfriend or dog? Where you kind of, you just don't know enough. You don't have enough experience, you don't have enough confidence, and you don't have enough knowledge. So some things he said to me barked at me. I've never forgotten. I mean, and I've actually applied them since. I mean, the horrible truth about life is a lot of life is about practice, Do
you find yourself barking at other people quite?
I barked once, actually. It was an out-of-body experience. I never do it. But, I'm attracted. It's interesting to listen to Ian because I'm kind of attracted to those kinds of people. I don't know why. It might be daddy issues. I don't know. Could be. But, I did 10 years later, I did a film with Dirk Bogarde. It was the same thing all over again. He made it really hard for me. He said, oh, that sounds bad. Sorry. He didn't make it hard for me. He made the job. He made the job hard. But you learn things from these people. You really do, because it's all or nothing, and you're in that. Well, I mean, the night before the Bogart interview, I was shitting myself, frankly, and he said, "Let's go out. We'll go to the Connaught. Put this tie on." I mean, and he just made it worse. I mean, he just said, "I don't want to, I don't want to waltz around the edge of the dance floor. I want to tango in the middle with a spotlight. And if it doesn't work, it'll be your fault. And you've got to push the right buttons." I mean, oh God. But you learn things from those people rather than the nice ones, maybe.
Sure. And you were talking about when you sat down to edit it, you really began to think that it could work. And I think one of the reasons for that is that you shot some fantastic drone footage in Portmeirion. It was a pleasure for me to be there for some of that. I'd like to show the audience a piece of this footage. I mean, people say when you go to Portmeirion, each time you go there, you see something you haven't seen before. Well, on this footage, I mean, you saw angles and things that you...
Yeah, I mean, all I could think... Well, you were there. Lovely drone crew who'd never seen the place, didn't know anything about it. 23-year-old people who don't seem to know much. All I was thinking was we can't... Patrick just had rather clunky 35mm shots of the place. All I could think of all the time was, wow, if he'd have had this technology... Just imagine a thing about surveillance, he would have it would have been bliss. Yeah. So I just wanted to show it in a way you had not seen it before. Yeah, and of course, everyone's little brother does a drone thing now. It's not,
but I think everyone who's seen that film would agree that footage just shows Portmeirion as you've never seen it before. And another great coup, if you like, for your film was the unearthing of some amateur footage which had been shot while The Prisoner was being filmed in Portmeirion. I'd like everyone to see some of that footage as well. And I don't want this to turn into This Is Your Life, but the young lad that shot that film ended up having a very successful career himself. And the person that shot that footage back in 1966, I'm pleased to say, is here this evening. Would everyone please welcome Mr. Keith Rogerson. So I think, and you've got with you the very camera
That's it.
that you shot it with. Now, you were on holiday, I think, just with your family at the time, is that right?
Yeah, we just popped up for the day to see this village we'd heard about, not knowing anything about it, and there was all this filming going on.
Did you know who McGowan was when you saw it?
Oh, yes. We thought it was an episode of Danger Man at the time. We didn't realise it was a completely new thing. And luckily, I had a couple of rolls of film, which was quite expensive in those days. If I'd known The Prisoner was going to go on, I would have gone and bought a lot more rolls and come back a few days after that. But... interestingly, I mean, I've spent the rest of my life as a sound recordist, and if I'd been the sound recordist there, I wouldn't have liked that going on, and it was. They never said a thing.
But it's astonishing when you look at the footage. We know that scene where he gets out of the moke, and in the episode, the place is deserted. On the screen, there's 500 people behind the camera, all clicking away and whatever. But that footage that Keith shot, I mean, it was fantastic for your film.
No, it's a complete lifesaver. I mean, if I'd have had that in 1983, the first film would have been so. It would have been, but I didn't. He was stuck in it unbelievably.
It was in 2 years ago. A chance post on Facebook 2 years ago, and I said, "You've got what?" And you dug it out, and
I mean, it was. And when we saw it, when we actually cut it in with the sequences, it was amazing how similar everything was. I mean, so it was an absolute gift. I don't know how much there is of it, 9 minutes maybe, but there's barely a frame that isn't not interesting, which for someone with a sort of camera at 13 years old is rare, I'd say,
Now, Dave, have you got a mic? Has anyone got any questions for Chris and indeed for Keith as well?
Yeah,
Mr. Lally, you could probably project your voice the way you...
Yeah. One question about, in my mind, how important was Catherine McGowan to getting the project underway? She was on the screen a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think she was, and that's another godsend. I mean, initially, Network just said, can you make a film that's primarily, exclusively, or predominantly from Patrick's view? So I just thought the interview material we had was going to be, if you don't use it very carefully, otherwise it would just get really embarrassing and boring. So I don't think Network thought it was essential. I don't know what their expectations were of how good she would be. But he can't, there's some things you just can't talk about. So And it's unreasonable, actually, to expect. I mean, he was an actor. You know, I mean, the dumbest blonde I've ever interviewed is Jeff Bridges. I mean, he's not a smart guy. Jeff Goldblum, another idiot. You know, they're not... They're great actors. They're very, very good actors. But it's not their job to talk about what it means. It's for the right, you know, maybe the right, if anyone talks, but it's not for them. So we needed her because... I thought we needed her because he's not really capable, and why should he? Why, you know, he actually, you know, why... He wouldn't want to anyway because it's going to limit people's readings. I assume his intention was, you work it out, right? You work it out for yourself. If I say this means that, you're just going to stop thinking and go, oh, okay, that's what the creator says, or the actor, the writer. I think, you know, took me a while to realize why he didn't want to do that interview and why he should never have done it, probably, is those reasons. Why? There are other people to do that. It's not your job to do that, and as soon as you do it, you know, you sort of close everything down. His only mistake was that he overestimated, you know, he had great belief in the public and what he thought was going to be a lively debate, just turned to anger on a lot of people who just said, what the hell's going on? And, you know, I think that must have been a huge disappointment for him, and I think it contributed to what he had. He almost had like a messianic complex. You know, he didn't say it to me, he said to someone I work with regularly, that if he came back to this country, he would be crucified, is what, you know, I mean, I think he had a highly developed sense of that he'd done something wrong and disappointed people and upset them. So we needed Catherine for all those reasons. He wouldn't, you know, like she says, and maybe I can do it for him. He can't do it, actually, and nor should he.
Thank you very much. Again, we could talk for hours, I'm sure, but as time is ticking, we've got so many other guests to hear from. Please, you all thank Chris Rodley and Keith Rodley.